Think this book is worth about $40,000 though. I want to tell you that you are lucky. It's likely that you kept my job. I guess you could thank me with some chocolate. Rebecca Romney seemed like the right person to talk to about rare books about Pawn Stars. She was calm, smart, and Rick Harrison himself trusted her. Things changed in 2014 though. There was a stolen book worth $40,000 on the show. After that, the FBI came in and asked Rebecca how the stolen books got on national TV. By January 2015, she wasn't on the show anymore for no reason. There was no goodbye or formal statement. We are going to find out what really happened behind the cameras today and why the truth was hidden for so long. She was born in Phoenix, Arizona on April 6, 1985. Phoenix is a warm, dry city. Her life at the time didn't point to any rare books or million-dollar writings. She even joked that old books were just dull things that old guys kept. She really wanted to be an intellectual or a translator. She liked languages, thoughts, and long talks. Things that had nothing to do with the world of auctions that she would one day rule. She thought she'd spend her whole time in classrooms when she went to college when she was 18. She knew 5.5 languages well by the time she was 22. She studied for 12 hours a day and learned English, French, Japanese, Latin, Old Greek, and even some Old English on her own. For a college test, she once translated a Greek paper from 300 BC and did great. Professors were shocked, and later her skills would help her find fakes that could have cost buyers a lot of money. She went to Brigham Young University to study philosophy and ancient studies from 2003 to 2007. While her friends picked safer majors, Rebecca was busy debating free will in 4-hour seminars and reading old works in their original languages. She took extra classes, got an A+ in all of them, and finished with honors. For her thesis, she compared Greek pieces of Plato's Republic from the 2nd century. At the time, no one knew it, but this strange mix of theory and old language was getting her ready for something really amazing. She did something wrong in 2007 right after high school that changed the rest of her life. Rebecca sent in an application for what she thought was a simple management job at Philadelphia's Bauman Rare Books. But when she got to the interview, she realized she had read the job offering wrong. It was for a rare book dealer, which she didn't know anything about. She almost left. She stayed, told them she didn't have any experience, and still got the job. That was enough for them to notice how good she was at language. In just a few months, she was taking care of books worth more than most homes. A 1623 folio of Shakespeare, a page from the Gutenberg Bible, and the first print of Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. She was thrown into a world where one mistake could cost a lot of money. In 2010, only 3 years after that, she was made show manager in Las Vegas. 66. By 20. She was 29 years old and the youngest senior director the company had ever had. In that job, she was in charge of catalogs, raffles, and private sales that brought in more than $10 million a year. One of her customers bought a book from 1472 for $300,000. Not only could she sell things well, she also found fakes that no one else could. There was no casting call for Rebecca Romney that Rick Harrison went to. He knew her already. When Bauman Rare Books opened a store in Las Vegas in 2007, she went there to work. In 2010, she was in charge of everything. Rick had been running gold and silver pawns since 1989. In Vegas, there weren't that many places to buy rare books and old things. They met at neighborhood events because they knew each other and were both interested in history. So when Rick wanted someone who really knew about old paper, not just books but also papers, signatures, and handwriting, he didn't ask the producers to find someone. He called her on the phone. That call got her first spot on Pawn Stars in 2011, but not as a paid TV personality. Instead, she was there as someone who was known and trusted off-camera. Their friendship grew after the movie came out. Fans had no idea that the calm, book-smart expert on screen wasn't just a good match. They even went on double dates. She was chosen by hand. April 4, 2011 was her first time in front of the camera for Season 4. She was given a stack of papers from the Civil War. There was an 1861 Confederate bond among them that, if real, could be worth $5,000. She looked at the feel of the paper, the ink, and even the way it was written. She found a fake signature in less than 10 minutes, which brought down the worth from $10,000 to a few $100s. A lot of people were glued to the TV. She spoke with confidence while quietly checking the facts while the cameras were rolling. She wasn't just another guest expert by the end of the show. She was the book lady and stole the show. The numbers went up by 15%. After that, if the pawn shop got any paper items like books, letters, or history records, they would call Rebecca. She was in about 30 shows between 2011 and 2020, with the most episodes coming in the first 4 years. During that time, she gave prices for everything from a copy of a letter from 1493 to Columbus worth $2,000 to a real print of the Declaration of Independence worth $15,000. Everyone was shocked when, in 2013, she proved that notes from Edgar Allan Poe that were hidden in a book that no one thought was valuable were actually notes from Poe. She even touched papers from the slave trade in the 1800s and talked about how to put a value on something that is so connected to pain and history. By 2014, she was doing almost 3/4 of the paper reviews for the show. Some of her calls were tough. Someone thought a fake Shakespeare book was worth $10,000, but she showed them it wasn't real. It wasn't. It wasn't just what she knew that made her stand out. It was the way she said it. Rebecca never yelled. She never looked scared. She could tell the truth about something big, like how a $50,000 book was part of an 1800s forgery ring, and still sound like she's just talking about what's for lunch. That became her thing. Other experts showed how excited they were, but she kept things calm and clear. He almost lost his job in 2012 because he bought a book without checking it out first. The Memoirs of Charles Lindbergh, written in 1927, cost him $500 and was signed, then by mistake called him Mark Lindbergh. The whole store thought it was fake. Even more, Rick said that Chumley would never have to work again if the signature didn't match. Once more, Rebecca Romney stepped in. Then she took out a real copy and compared the signatures. She pointed out that Lindbergh's signature style had changed as he became more popular. It turned out to be true. It was worth $1,500 to her, more than 3 times what Chumley had paid. It was a good return, and Chumley didn't get fired because of it. It almost went badly, but one small signature changed it into one of his rare wins. Someone else came in with what looked like 1812 war bonds and said they were worth a lot of money. She looked more closely, though, and found something much stranger. These weren't new or different. They were in the Confederacy. It wasn't just that they were rare. They were not there. After the Civil War finished in 1865, these papers were no longer found. They had something to do with stolen goods from the South that were put on the USS Republic, which sank in a storm that same year. It was found in 2003, and by 2005, some of the rusty things that were inside had been salvaged. These ties were a part of that past. It could be worth $50,000. But they brought judicial problems with them as well. If the shop sells stolen goods, it could end up in court. The Olus were called. The shop didn't buy something that could have led to a lawsuit because Rebecca did a lot of study. This shows that history does have consequences. Someone thought they had found the Holy Grail when they came across a Shakespeare first print from 1623. Real copies of that book have gone for a very high price. In 2020, one sold for $9.98 million. The seller's copy looked good at first glance, but Rebecca looked closely and saw that it had some problems. Paper didn't look old enough, ink looked too clean, and there were flaws that real books from 400 years ago always have. She thought it was fake and might have been influenced by the so-called false folio of 1619, which was a fake collection made by William Jaggard and Thomas Pavier. Even those are useful, but this one wasn't even close. The store might have lost a lot of money if Rick had bought it. They almost made one of the worst mistakes in Pawn Star's history, but her sharp eyes stopped them. But sometimes the things were really there and had the same power. This is what happened when someone brought in a first copy of Charles Darwin's book On the Origin of Species. Came out on November 24, 1859, and sold out the first day. There were only 1,250 copies made. Rebecca knew it was real as soon as she saw the designs, the green cloth binding, and the ads from June 1859. It was worth $75,000 to her. It's impossible to overstate how important Darwin's book was. It changed religion and science forever. That was a big surprise. Not even Copernicus and Newton had done that. Some copies have sold for more than $500,000, especially those with Darwin's own notes inside. Editions that came out later aren't nearly as useful. The 1862 version, which didn't have Darwin's strange whale bear story, is worth only about $9,500. But that first picture made a big difference, and this one, which was just sitting in the shop, was the kind of find that fans dream of. Her review of a first version of Frankenstein in an episode that made online forums go crazy in 2011 and 2015 made her a fan favorite. Both the book itself and the rage it caused were worth $20,000. She was known as the Book Whisperer by some. and she quickly got tens of thousands of fans. People asked the makers to give her more screen time. Some people even wanted a spin-off. Behind the scenes, though, not everything was great. In 2014, Pawn Stars showed an episode that quietly started one of the craziest and most unsettling rumors about the show. A man went into the pawn shop that sold gold and silver, saying they have a rare copy of the Book of Mormon from 1841. Rebecca Romney, who is the show's rare book expert, looked at it carefully and said it was worth $40,000. But the seller asked for $100,000. Rick Harrison was able to buy it for only $24,000 after some going back and forth. It looked like another good deal for the shop at first glance. Things began to fall apart after that. It was said that the book had been stolen from the University of Utah's Marriott Library. Federal agents are said to have stepped in soon after the show ran. There are reports that the FBI took the book and left the pawn shop with nothing. A public comment was never made and no charges were made known. But Reddit threads and YouTube vids helped the story get more attention. Also, Rebecca Romney was said to have been questioned by federal agents in late 2014, around the time that the FBI was said to have become interested. There were rumors that the spies were interested in how stolen historical books could get on national TV without getting caught. This wasn't the only case. The FBI had already given back stolen books to the National Library of Sweden in 2015. In 2005 and 2006, Forbes Smiley was arrested for stealing rare maps worth millions of dollars. Romney was never accused of doing anything wrong, but some people think that being questioned had a big effect on her. She was known for being sure of herself when judging books worth thousands of dollars. Now she wasn't sure of her thoughts. Then it was January 10, 2015. A pirate book from 1734 was appraised by Rebecca Romney on what would be her last show.